Hello all and welcome to the Rails Board meeting. I'm Alex Fancina, President of the Rails Board, and I call this meeting to order on Friday, August 25th at 1 p.m. Emily, would you please call roll?
Sure. Monica Caldecott. Rosie Camargo. Here. Jean Carroll. Here. Alice Creason.
Here.
Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Robin Hellenthal. Here. Diane Hollister. Here. Jennifer Hobeneck.
Here.
Hey Leva. Here. Julie Milivek. Here. Thomas Stagg.
Here.
Alex Fancina.
Here.
Vanessa Villarreal. Here. Karen Wojtek. Here. And Kathy Anacostia.
Here.
Thank you.
Who said she'd be a couple minutes late, so she'll be
Thank you, Emily.
full house.
All right. Moving on to recognition of guests and announcements. We'll start with guests here in Burr Ridge.
Monica Harris, Rails.
Emily Feister, Rails.
Sharon Swanson, Rails.
Joe Philippine Rails. Don Engineer Rails.
All right. We have no attendees at any of the remote sites today.
Not.
Okay. Emily, would you please read the names of guests attending via Zoom?
Karen. We have Jeanette Durecki from Rails, Mark Hatch from Rails, and Brian Hebel from Rails.
Thank you. If Emily has not read your name, please announce yourself or put your name in the chat. Moving on to public comments. Emily, are there any public comments here in Burr Ridge?
No.
Thank you. Any public comments from Zoom participants? If not, did we receive any by email? All right. Are there any other announcements at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to move any item from the consent agenda to the regular agenda for further discussion? May I have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Karen.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Roll call for disbursements.
We do. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Monica Caldecott.
Yes.
Rosie Camargo. Yes. Jean Carroll.
Yes.
Alice Creason.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory.
Yes.
Robin Hellenthal.
Yes.
Diane Hollister.
Yes.
Jennifer Hobeneck.
Yes.
Renee Leva.
Yes.
Julie Milivek.
Yes.
Thomas Stagg.
Yes.
Alex Fancina.
Yes.
Vanessa Villarreal.
Yes.
Karen Wojtek.
Yes.
And Kathy Anacostia.
Yes.
I'm sorry, who motioned? Who did the first motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Next up is Sharon Swanson with the financial report.
You, Alex. You will find in your packet the July financial reports. You'll see that the July 31st general fund cash and investment balance of 21.8 million would fund approximately 19.1 months of budgeted fiscal year 2024 operations. General fund revenues through July of just over $2.1 million were approximately $729,000 below budget. And this is mostly due to not having yet received any APC grant payments. These are budgeted evenly, but received sporadically throughout the year. I think I'm getting a little bit of echo. Sorry.
I just need to get a little closer just to capture your voice. You got it.
Sorry for any disturbance on the recording. These below budget APC grant revenues were partially offset by higher than budgeted reimbursement revenue from group purchases. And this is mostly due to timing differences between the budget and the actual billings for group purchases. They were also offset by above budget investment income. Investment was budgeted at 3.75% to be conservative based on projections of interest rates at that point in time when the budget was finalized, but they're currently running just under 5.5% the interest rate. The Federal Reserve is continuing interest rate increases, albeit they're starting to slow them down. We're only expecting another 0.25% increase within calendar year 2023. And in total, they've increased interest rates 525 basis points since March of 2022. General fund expenditures through July of just over $2.5 million were nearly $210,000 below budget. And this is mostly due to lower contractual services expenditures from timing differences between the billings for our delivery outsourcing contractor, as well as the billings from our Findmore Illinois platform vendor. Sorry, I'm still getting some echo.
It's good.
And this is also due to not having yet awarded any cataloging membership or My Library Is grants so far this year, because we're just in July. Vehicle expenditures are also below budget due to timing differences in receiving and paying our monthly fuel card expenses. And I did just want to note, and this just happened this week, that we had information from one of our fuel cards presumably skimmed from a pump's card reader. We identified a total of $998.50 worth of fraudulent transactions that occurred during this month. And we have filed a police report, and we're working to file a dispute with the fuel card vendor as well. We do expect to recover the funds, but it may take 60 to 90 days for them to reach a resolution and issue a credit on our account. And we are instructing all of our drivers to check the fuel card readers on all pumps to make sure that there isn't a skimming device attached over the card reader by jiggling it, and also checking the sticker to see if it was breached. This occurred at a station that was relatively in an isolated area. And there aren't many other options around. So apparently the thieves targeted that particular station. So unfortunately, WEX did flag it because we don't have any diesel vehicles, and they made some diesel fuel purchases. So professional services expenditures were also below budget, and this is due to timing differences between the budgeted and actual project expenditures for July, including the Verso Consortia project, salary benchmarking, and the EDI handbook review that will all occur as the year progresses. Travel is also below budget due to normal delays between events and receipt and processing travel reimbursements and vendor invoices related to those events. During July, Rails did incur expenses for the replacement Polycom equipment, the cameras for which you will see here in our conference room, as well as the service center server replacements, both of which were budgeted to be purchased in fiscal year 2023, but were delayed mostly due to vendor delays, getting us samples and then fulfilling our order. On August 15th, I did want to say that Rails received the full amount of the fiscal year 2024 grants for the L2 and the World Language Cataloging grant programs, which were $53,611 and $45,627 respectively. And also, I did want to address, because Tom Stagg had asked a question at the July board meeting regarding the additional banking regulations that may have been put in place following the Silicon Valley, First Republic Bank, and Signature Bank collapses. And I answered him via email, but I thought that it might be of interest to everyone for me just to address that now. So a total of 11 bills have been introduced to the House of Representatives, and the House has referred those to the House Committee on Financial Services. So nothing's been discussed yet, but they've been referred to committee. And these bills cover things like barring executives who have had a hand in bank's failure from future work in the industry, restricting stock sales for those same executives, leveling the playing field for banks that don't have a holding company by requiring the same stress test, liquidity mandates, capital requirements, and resolution planning that larger banks are required to have. Requiring large banks to hire a chief risk officer to manage risks specifically, limiting bailouts by the federal government to a limited number of mega banks to ensure that smaller banks have a chance to purchase failed banks, expanding stress testing to 5 times a year instead of 2, which is going to be key for this whole process. Requiring banks to set aside money to cover fines after a bank failure so that the federal government isn't stuck trying to cover those fines. And freezing bonuses for top executives that if certain governmental reporting is unsatisfactory, for instance, their reporting of their stress test and all the additional tests that are going to be required, and eliminating the ability to opt out of reporting unrealized losses on the bank's financial statements, which is a way for them not to report the losses that they had actually incurred during the year, which delayed finding these cracks in the system. So with that, I think I've gone over everything that I had. Does anyone have any questions or any thing that I can answer any further? And I apologize for the echo.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. We'll move on to reports. I have no report this month, but please note we do have a closed session at the conclusion of our regular business in this meeting. Committee reports are included in the agenda packet. Are there any questions regarding committee reports? All right. If not, we'll move on to Monica with the Rails report.
Thank you, Alex, and hello, everybody. Had an exciting morning that I can't wait to tell you about. So as you probably saw in the beginning of the Rails report, we were originally scheduled to present at Secretary Janulius's press conference yesterday, but that press conference was moved to this morning. So we had the opportunity to attend there at a new building, relatively new building for the state of Illinois. It's in the old PepsiCo building off Monroe, if you remember that space. And so Secretary Janulius, instead of doing a press release, as they previously have done, chose to do a press conference where they announced all of the grants that came through Secretary of State and the Illinois State Library. We were the only library group that was invited to speak about sort of the impact of those grant fundings on the residents of Illinois for this year, but there were lots of attendees who were there to also be honored and recognized in those grant proposals. It was a wonderful day. You can see the giant foam check behind me that we were issued today. And we also got a photo opportunity with the secretary. He once again really expressed his support for libraries, talked a lot about some of the things that are happening right now in the library world and how they want to continue to make sure that libraries have the funding and support that they need to do the great work that they're doing. So it was really a great morning and we were so honored to be a part of it. I want to extend my thanks to the Illinois State Library and to the Secretary for inviting us to be there and talk about the kinds of impacts that Rails has with libraries and with the residents of Illinois. And it was really fun day. So it was really great way to start the day. And I want to, of course, also extend that thanks to the Rails staff that helped us put together the talking points and things that we wanted to be able to share with legislators and folks who are not as familiar with libraries and especially library systems and what they do. So it's really great group effort there. Another piece for Secretary Janulius, I just want to make sure you're all aware that on October 2nd, I've been asked to be part of a panel that is being organized by the Vernon Area Public Library. Yeah. And they have asked for a lot of library partners to be a part of this event. It's going to be over Zoom, but they are actually encouraging people from library communities, not just librarians, but residents to come and talk about the issues of book banning. Secretary Janulius will be on the panel, as well as a couple of authors who live in Illinois and who've had books affected by book banning. It should be a really interesting event. And so if you're interested in attending and coming, definitely pay attention for some of those announcements as they move forward. We also wanted to let you know that Directors University was a big success this year. Of course, Directors University is a training opportunity for people who have been directors for less than a year, typically. Joe is very involved with the organization of that event, as well as there's a lot of work that comes in from the Illinois Library Association, Heartland. The Illinois State Library comes and presents a lot of great information, a whole new group of attendees. And I think, as we noted, that there were 30 new public library directors from Rails member libraries that attended this year. So another great opportunity for training and networking and getting people together. We are also looking forward to our first in many years joint meeting with Heartland in Springfield on Tuesday, August 29th. So some of the leadership from here at Rails is going to go down to the Illinois State Library, and we're going to have an all-day meeting with the leadership at Heartland. We're going to talk through our operational plans and also some of the statewide programs that are being delivered. People are going to meet one-on-one with sort of their counterparts at Heartland, and then we're going to come back together to talk about collaboration and partnership opportunities for the year. So we're really excited to do this and all to be able to get together in person and talk more about some of these issues. A lot of our groups do meet kind of one-on-one with their counterparts, but it's a great chance to get everybody together and talking about some of these big picture issues. So we're looking forward to that. And we thank the Illinois State Library for hosting us and giving us a tour of their beautiful space as well. Finally, we wanted to make sure you were aware of the Unite Against Book Bans in Illinois. This project is something that actually came out of the partnership group that we are really excited to be a part of. That is that group that is focused on school libraries and partners with ISLE, Heartland, the Illinois Library Association, Illinois State Library, and now we actually have representatives from Carly and ISBE who also attend in that group. Unite Against Book Bans in Illinois was modeled off of a model that happened in New Jersey, which pulled together different people in different regions to put in volunteer activity to say that they would like to be a part of if there is a book ban or challenge happening in their area, and that library reaches out to say that they would like support, that there can be a group of volunteers that are mobilized in the area to do things like attend meetings or write an op-ed to the paper or just be somebody to talk to about what it's like to go through this process. So right now volunteers are being accepted, and then pretty soon the call for people who are interested in getting support is going to go out. So definitely take a look at that. We are proud to be a part of that process. Again, Joe's been very involved in getting that group together through the work that's happened at the partnership. We're really happy to share that. And then later on our agenda, we're going to talk about the Staff Institute Day, so I won't touch on that too much here, but we are looking forward to the possibility for that in October. So any questions about the Rails report?
All right. Thank you, Monica. And next we have Mark Hatch with a delivery department update.
Hello, everyone. I am going to share my screen. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that.
Yes, we can.
Great, excellent. Well, good afternoon. My name is Mark Hatch, and I am the Director of Facilities and Delivery. And today I'm going to do a brief presentation on both of those areas, but focus primarily on the delivery side. But I wanted to give you a brief update on the facilities as well. We do have 4 delivery hubs. I just wanted to just show you the locations, and then also I just wanted to give a shout out to the managers in each one of those locations. Bolingbrook, that's managed by Demon Warfield. He also manages our outsourced vendor. Our Coal Valley operation is run by Jeff McAmey. He's been involved with Rails for about a year now. He's a great manager out there. East Peoria is managed by Robert Morgan, and Rockford is managed by Bob Cummings. So to briefly talk about the facilities, this is a summary that I create annually, primarily an internal document that I wanted to share with you. And what this document, and I think this is also in your board packet, what I wanted to do is just go over a couple of the things that I think is really important that you should see here. Half of our buildings are leased, the other half we actually own. So if you look at where it says lease expiration, you can see exactly when our leases are going to expire. And then also the very next column, which is right next to that, we actually have the details on the lease itself, when we have to do notices of renewal or cancellation and so forth and so on. Then our monthly rent, you can see exactly what our monthly rent is. And naturally, Bolingbrook, which is a large facility, we pay the most. And then you'll also see what our expenses are associated with each one of those hubs as well. So just to touch on one other thing with Burr Ridge, in Burr Ridge, naturally, the building that we're in now is one of those locations that we actually own. And because of that, we thought it was important, for us to do a facility assessment, which was just completed. We just received it a couple of weeks ago, and the report is 83 pages long. So we're going to be meeting with the company to sort of, condense it for us so that, we can just take the most pertinent information out of that report and then utilize that. So let's jump over to delivery. We have a hybrid system in place where we actually provide delivery ourselves, and then we also have a outsourced vendor, Continental Transport Logistics, or CTL. I think our process is quite simple. That was the focus when we were designing this. Very simple, user-friendly, efficient, and then statewide focus. And then I'll touch on each one of those areas as we go along. here's some of our stats that I wanted to just provide, just so that you'll see the number of stops. We, over 117,000 stops we do. We drive over 1 million miles a year. Our annual volume was 7.6 million items, and that's a combination of what was serviced by our outsourced vendor CTL and what rail is doing. So CTL services 134 locations, and their volume was like 3.8 million items. So they're doing 50% of our volume, with just 134 locations. We covered 27,000 square miles, and then I'll show you a map on that later. Our staffing and then our budget, we use $3.5 million, and then what our average costs per item, to actually process. One thing that's not included in these stats is the work that we do for IODS. We actually compensated $574,000, and this work is on a cost recovery basis because we service 109 of their locations spread out through our territory. So all the 4 delivery hubs also service the IODS locations. This is what our delivery volumes. We do a quarterly count, and these are the stats that we get on a quarterly basis from each one of our counts broken down by service center. As mentioned before, we're doing 7.6 million items, and this is processed by rails and CTL. We also track what's not on this particular slide presentation. We also track the number of containers that we process, and we process 265,000 containers, with the average container holding about 28 items. So we do track a lot of information, just to make sure that we understand where our numbers are coming from and so forth. So efficiency. I think we're extremely efficient because of the fact that many of you guys may remember LASA, which is the new GeoMark, from Southern Illinois University. We've contracted with them on many occasions to confirm or improve our routing. Just recently, 2 years ago, we just worked with GeoMark on rerouting the entire East Peoria operation. That reroute gave us the ability to save $40,000. So what we spent was definitely worth it, since we were actually saving $40,000 over the long run. We also utilize CDPs, or Community Delivery Partnership. And what that is that's primarily where you have a host library, let's say a larger library, that will receive the delivery for a smaller library. Majority of the time, 99.9% of the time, the host library has 5-day-a-week delivery. So if they're receptive to receiving the material for the smaller library, that in essence, that smaller library is also now, receiving 5-day-a-week delivery in a roundabout way, So the only requirement is it has to be within a 5-mile radius, and both libraries have to work together, to make that happen. So we've got 152 locations that have agreed to be host libraries for an additional 251 libraries. So we think it's a great program. It helps the smaller library, and it helps my efficiency because I've removed a stop off of the route. So which saves money in the long run. So it's a great program. So we like to continue to push that whenever possible. And then the delivery on demand. Those are our van on demand locations, where it's primarily used for low volume locations, that don't have a lot of volume to ship out, So what we've asked them to do is for them to contact us when they have something to send out. We will then schedule it for 1 of 2 days that is already predetermined on a route. We would then service that location on that route. That gives me the ability to take a stop off the street. And then also I understand what my costs are, because that stop is already factored in. So it's a great way for us to be able to, still service those smaller locations and, keep my costs down at the exact same time. One of the things that libraries always ask is, what am I entitled to? as far as my delivery frequency. How often am I, will I receive delivery? What we've done is we've actually created a chart, and it's actually on our delivery webpage, which, actually spells out exactly what the library is entitled to by their volume. So if a library, sends out between 10 and 59 items per week, they're entitled to 2 days a week delivery. If a library sends out 250 plus items a week, they're entitled to 5 days a week delivery. So it's a pretty great, at a glance chart that is on our website to where libraries can go and see exactly what they're entitled to off of the frequency that they're sending out. By the way, this is interactive, so feel free to, jump in at any time if anyone has any questions or anything like that. User-friendly. As I mentioned before, we worked with GeoMark on determining our routing. So each library, when a new stop comes on, or if there are changes to a route, what we do is we actually send out an email to that library to let them know the window that they're going to receive. Let's say, for instance, they're going to it's scheduled on the route for the driver to arrive, let's say at 9 a.m. So what we've placed them on, they understand that they will be able to receive delivery as early as 8 o'clock in the morning and as late as 10 o'clock. So we've given them a 2-hour window. So now the library has a good understanding of when they're going to receive the delivery. If for some reason, there is a delay on the route, or, something has to be moved or anything like that, we've set up email strings for every one of our routes, where we can then notify the library, all the libraries on that route, that there's an issue. There's a delay because of mechanical issues or delay for whatever reason. We can notify that route so that they're not wondering, where's my delivery? So we actually initiate the email right to each one of the libraries on that route, the affected route. So I think that's a great way, for us to make sure that we stay in tune, the library stay in tune with what's going on our side. And if the library needs to reach us, we have a help desk set up, a ticketing system, which I think works great, where if the library wants to notify us that they don't want delivery today because they've got construction going on within their parking lot or something of that nature, and to pause delivery, all they have to do is just contact Rails Delivery at railslibrary.org. We get the email, it's automatically routed to the appropriate service center manager, so that now that manager knows that I can just go into my delivery app and remove that location off of the route for that particular day. So we've got a lot of great things, set up in place, why I think it's a pretty user-friendly system that we've got in place. I also like to say it's very simple, and because all we require to make a delivery is that simple label. What's interesting about this label is when I got here 11 years ago, we had 7 different labels, and I was tasked with creating one label. And I said, no problem, I'll have it done in a week. Well, 52 focus groups later and 10 years, we finally ended up with the label that we've got here. So this is a simple label. And, I have to remind people, the label is not necessarily for the library, it's for delivery. It's the simplest thing that we can do to get an item from point A to point B. So this is what we've come up with, and it's very simple. Where is it going? So the two, if we have a CDP partnership, let's say, for instance, it's going to go to John Doe Public, and it's going to go for Jane Doe Elementary School, and then where it came from. That's it. That's all we need to move that item from point A to point B. So these labels are free, to any library that requests them. There's a simple, application request form on our website where they can just go request, I need XYZ. I buy 5 million labels a year. And we've got it set up in a couple of different ways to where you can have these self-adhesive, which I think is great, or if you just want to type it out, we have a writable PDF that they can utilize as well. So that's, we've got as far as the label is concerned to make the process as simple as possible. One of the things that I'm really proud of, which I'm so thankful that we're cooking with gas now. You know, we're able to now collect all of our data, our route data on our tablets. You know, this is a game changer for us. You know, we've been, utilizing paper for a very long time. So having the iPad out there, like I said, eliminates a ton of paper. It gives us a way to centralize our data collection process. It also has a report writer that in any field that you can imagine, I can get a report off of. So I can go into the system and say, I want to know, what is John Doe sending out on a daily basis? I can get a report to show exactly the items, the number of containers that I'm getting from this library, or what we're delivering, what they're sending out. I can get a report on, the average arrival time at this. So it's a great, process. So I have to thank IT, for creating this and willing to, as we continue to work with it, revise it to make it even better. So I'm very, very proud and very happy that this is going as great as it is. So, shout out and thank you to IT as well. So one of the things that we do internally is we also sort all the material that we pick up. So we have a very simple process of sorting. We use an L-shaped pod structure, and what that does, it eliminates our walking, it eliminates our touches and, of material, things of that nature. It's a great way to sort in an expedited fashion, because what happens is majority of the borrowing is done within a route, as long as routing prioritization is utilized, where the LSAP is going to look at the libraries on a route to try and grab an item before it goes outside. So as long as routing prioritization is in place, it really truly expedite our sorting. We can sort a full container in 2 to 3 minutes. Because of that process, because of the fact of the way we've got our pod structured, so let's say for instance, I'm just going to throw some stuff out. Route 1 has 12 different libraries on that route. So there would be 12 different containers on that pod that we would be sorting into. And if there's something for another route, we have another area where it just slides over to. So it's a very easy, quick, simple way to sort. We've duplicated this process into all of our service centers. So everyone processes the exact same way. I'm big on standardization. So all of our operations are set up the exact same way. I think it's one of the most efficient way to sort. And that's actually been vetted by our delivery consultant that we had hired a while back, who also thought it was a very good, efficient process that we have in place here. Okay, statewide focus. This is, our map, the map of Illinois. The cream area is the Rails territory. The blue area down at the bottom is the Heartland Library System area. And then that corner up at the top right there, that is the CPL, the Chicago Public Library System. What those blue dots in the cream area, those are where our service centers are. That's where Bolingbrook, East Peoria, Rockford, and Cove Valley are. That is the areas there. We also had GeoMark vet those service center areas to make sure that they were in the appropriate location to service the members in that area. And so far, everything is working out great. So you see the red dot, and I'll talk about this briefly. That is our exchange point. What we do is on a daily basis, and then I'm just gonna flip over to the next map here, to this chart here, to where you could actually see exactly what we do and how we actually exchange material. We actually meet up with the Heartland Library System on a daily basis. And what we do is, if you can see the lines there where Bolingbrook goes directly to Champaign, Rockford goes directly to Champaign, but then off to the left there, you could actually see where our Cove Valley operation drives to East Peoria, retrieves the material for East Peoria, then drives that down right to the Champaign. That is giving me the ability to take a route off the street. There was no need for two routes to be driving on the same road right next to each other. So we were able to combine those two. So whenever possible, when we can do something like that, we always like to take advantage of situations like that. This is how we exchange material with the Heartland or the entire state on a daily basis, because we meet up at between 8 and 8:15 every night. We exchange material. We then go back. That material is taken back to the hub, sorted down, and then and being able to be delivered the next day. So that is that actually came out primarily due to the requirement that we have with ILDS, which is currently set up for a 24-hour turnaround. And this we thought was the best way to actually accomplish that, by having this work being done at night and then processed immediately when it gets back. So this is a great setup we've got in place now, just to make sure that we can satisfy that contractual obligation. The delivery count, which I know a lot of people in the room really don't particularly care for, but it's something that we have to do 4 times a year. It's only 4 times a year for 1 week each quarter. This is so important because of the fact that this is actually how we get our annual count. This is how we determine that $7.6 million is by that count. So it's extremely important that the libraries, provide this information. We actually do track you down if you don't, because it's important for us to have this number. The library is going to put that data directly into our system. And because of that, what we do is we audit 25% of our libraries on a quarterly basis, just to make sure that the numbers, plus we also do a little cursory review of all of that data anyway. But it's important for us to make sure that, we look at those numbers to make sure that they are correct. One of the things our IT department has done, because we were getting a lot of transposed numbers, instead of them putting in 5 containers and 250 items, we were getting 250 containers and 5 items. So they've actually worked it to where if one number is greater than the other, it would reject it, just to make sure that the numbers are being put in correctly. So it's important that we everyone participates in the delivery count, because we really truly do need this information to determine our overall volume. I also encourage everyone to go to the delivery webpage, because of the fact that there's so much good information out there. So much good information that you can go over. We've got such good stuff out there. Please just take 5 minutes to just review it. It's a great website. And if you got ideas to make it even better, we're receptive to that as well. So also, one of the things that, because we're well aware that there's a lot of turnover within the libraries and things like that, we've created videos, training videos, to help the library train. The videos are going to be as simple as, how to prep the material, how to put information into the delivery help desk, how to do searches within L2, ordering labels, or even how to populate a label. So these are all the videos out there. And one of the things we wanted to make sure we did was that they weren't long. We didn't want to lose people. So by having short videos, it's easy for the library staff to say, hey, look at this. This is exactly how to do X, Y, Z. So those are great videos. Please take a look at those as well. And then also I briefly want to talk about CTL, our delivery vendor. As I mentioned before, they do 3.8 million items on an annual basis, from only 134 locations. So those are some nice sized libraries that they actually service, So we've been partnered with CTL since 2015. Great organization to work with. We've been, we're in the process of doing a contract renewal right now, so probably hopefully in a couple of weeks, that will be finalized. But they're located, not too far from us, right there in Elmhurst, where they're actually servicing and running routes right out of the Elmhurst Service Center. So I wanted to just briefly touch on some of our challenges and things that we're looking forward to. Um, uh, as many people know, vehicles have always been, for the last couple of years, been a major problem. Just getting vehicles. I'm glad to report I was able to order one 12-foot box truck. And so Ford has opened up the window for that. I'm still waiting for the window to open up on the Transits, which is the primary vehicle that we actually utilize. So I'm hoping that that's going to be in the near future. A couple of other areas is the unpredictability of the fuel costs. That is so hard to predict. We go on to the EIA, and that's energy something, energy, something agency. I apologize. I can't think of it right now. We actually looked and see, for budgeting purposes, exactly how, we should budget, for our fuel and things like that. And unless you've got a crystal ball and, it's so hard to predict, we actually budgeted, I think, $4.25 a gallon, even though they were saying $3 a gallon, which I just truly didn't believe. So we internally still budgeted for $4.25. Our staffing has always been a major issue, keeping good staff and so forth. And then also salaries. Our salaries have gone through the roof, recently. We know for a fact hiring staff has been an issue. If I have a person retiring, I ask them to give me, a 3-month notice so that I can start the process extremely early. So these are some of the challenges that we've got in place. And then one of the things, I'm looking forward to, maybe hopefully one of these days we'll be able to look at simplifying our data collection to where we could possibly eliminate the delivery count. That's something that, if we could figure this out, I think it would be great. We've got a lot of challenges with that, but we've got, libraries that's associated with LSAPs, we've got standalones, we've got small, non-automated libraries, so we got to figure out a process to where everybody can do the exact same thing and get those numbers, which we can eliminate. The delivery count would be ideal. If we could do something like that, I think that's great. And statewide collaboration, and that's me working with Heartland. I have a new counterpart, Colleen, in Heartland, that seems to be a great person. I'm looking forward to continue to work with her. And since she's new, I've offered our services, to help her out as much as possible as well. So I tried to be as quick as I could. My apologies for speaking so fast, but I know I didn't want the mic to start, cutting off and the lights blinking. So, so I'm more than willing to answer any questions if anybody has any questions, for me concerning facilities or delivery.
Mark, this is Gwen. Could you talk a little more about ILDS and that relationship and how that works?
Yes. Well, a couple of years ago, probably about maybe about 5 years ago, I think we signed a contract with ILDS to make the deliveries to all of the academic locations. I think there's about 140 some locations throughout the state. So we have 109. I think Heartland has 30 some locations. So what we do is we actually pick up all of their material from each one of those academic locations, bring them back to our hub, sort them down, and then we actually make the delivery the next morning. So the contract is actually going to be ending, I believe, June 30th of 2024. So we are going to have to start working, most likely the way Carly operates. We usually get a renewal contract like 6 months in advance. We'll start working on the renewal contract. As I mentioned earlier, that is actually at night. It is very challenging, I'll be honest, to run that at night, but so that's what we currently have in place. And it is primarily on a cost recovery basis. There's a 3% increase factored in every year on the contract. So right now we're at $574,000 in which we're recouped, to provide that service. Was there anything else that you were looking for related to?
So Carly pays separately for that delivery to all the academic libraries.
Correct. Yes. We actually invoice them on a monthly basis. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Other questions for Mark?
Mark, this is Monica. I'll just say a wonder of efficiency and planning, and you'd put any great delivery service out of business with your great map model.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. You know, there's such a great team in place here. It's just unbelievable. You know, I came from the armored car industry, and I would have loved to have a team like this, you know, that we've got here. So I have to give all the credit, you know, to Monica and Joe and all the delivery managers, because actually they do all the work. You know, I just take the credit for it. So
Well, you're giving me an in mark to be able to tell, especially for those of you who maybe weren't on the board last June. So ALA Annual was in Chicago over this last year, and there is a group of delivery professionals that do physical delivery group, and they all wanted to come to a Rails location just so that they could see all of the ways that Mark has innovated and created all of these systems. And a lot of them are using or looking at ways to use those systems that have been created in their own delivery systems nationally. So Mark has really been a leader, not just in the state, but now, you know, a lot of those systems that have been created are being adopted by, you know, library systems and delivery areas across the country. So it's really exciting stuff.
thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And next up, we have Karen Egan with the State Library Report. Karen?
Hi, everybody, and thank you for inviting me here today. First, I have to publicly thank Monica. Monica, thank you so much for agreeing to be at the podium this morning to talk about the value of libraries at the press conference. We cannot thank you enough for your role in that. I know that my email has been blowing up from the staff that were attending about how excited they were and how glad they were. And I just saw the photo links coming through it. You're going to love the photos as well. So it's fun. So this is an exciting thing that the secretary had wanted to do. And so thank you for being involved in that this morning. We really appreciate it, very much so.
My pleasure, Karen. Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, and I don't know if you noticed, but when the camera zoomed into you, I took a picture of you and Alex with the check on my cell phone that I could then send to others. Yeah, so that was very exciting. A couple other things going on. For those of you in schools, the school district library grant is open and we are accepting applications right now. You have until October 15th to apply, so there's plenty of time, but that grant offering is open and we are accepting applications right now. You might think that Family Reading Night, which is in November, is a long way away, but as Mark just talked about the preparation and the materials that has to happen, right now, staff have all got boxes of bookmarks at their desks, and they are bundling them to get them ready because we get all of these single stacked bookmarks, not bundled, not counted out, that have to be counted out in order to send to libraries. So people are busy making stacks of bookmarks throughout the library. So when you are here next week, the staff will love seeing these boxes and boxes of Family Reading materials all over, and those will automatically be sent to school and public libraries. If you are a special library and you would like us to send some to you, or an academic, just send me an email and I'll slip some out to you, no problem. We are looking forward to having the systems here next week to talk about some collaboration and issues impacting libraries across the state as well. And we're looking forward to reading your system annual report that's due the end of September. With that, do you have any questions for me? I promised I would keep it brief today.
All right. Hearing none. Thank you, Karen.
Okay, thank you.
I'll share this picture real quick.
There's that check.
Monica, I'm jealous.
I, he's a very photogenic man.
All right, next up is new business, starting with the Open Meetings Act and FOIA report for fiscal year 2023. Monica?
Alex, so this is something new, but as we were going through all of our committee appointments and looking at our board officers for OMA and for FOIA, we had a conversation with Renee Leva, and Renee suggested that maybe we do a regular report of some of the FOIA requests that we received throughout the year. We also, as many of you do, have a FOIA and OMA hotline that we operate, so we thought that we would share both the kinds of FOIA requests that we have received over the last year, and then also give you a few stats, you know, just to kind of go over what some of those things that come in through the FOIA and OMA hotline. So as you can see on your list, that kind of details the FOIA requests that were received by Rails in the last year. And then just a little bit more information about the FOIA and OMA hotline on your second page that kind of lets you know who is eligible to be able to call the hotline. Rails does cover the cost of the legal support for these calls, and you can see the number of calls that have been received year by year. These are on calendar year, so we thought we would include what has come in this kind of first half of 2023 as well, just so you can look at it for comparison. But it is pretty regularly used, and we have heard certainly from many of our libraries that they appreciate this service, and it's something that they'd like to see continue. So it's good to be able to provide that kind of guidance for libraries, especially those who might be receiving some of these requests infrequently or for the first time. Well, any questions about the report?
Doing that.
Yeah.
I didn't know how many people were actually calling. And so it's amazing to see, like in 2020, 117, 21, 108, 91, then 84. It's just,
Yeah.
at least we know that services are being used.
Yes, absolutely being utilized. Any other questions about the FOIA and OMA piece?
Sympathy, smart. There is a real pain.
I know you all have to deal with that as well. And so we will, if you like this, we'll just continue to offer this on an annual basis, probably not long after the conclusion of the fiscal year, and just kind of give you an update of some of the things that we see. So we will do that moving forward.
Service, and thanks Renee for the suggestion. All right, next we have the Rails closure for Staff Institute Day on October 11th.
Alex. And so we did include a memo just to kind of explain some of the rationale for Staff Institute Day. We have not had an in-person Staff Institute Day since 2019. So because I joined Rails at the beginning of 2020, I've actually never even been to a Rails Staff Institute Day. So I'm really excited. And I asked Joe if he could just say a few words kind of about what we have planned and what we're hoping to do.
Yes, so 2019 was a long time ago, like before COVID was anything even. So, I mean, we have a lot of staff who have never been to an in-service day.
Yeah.
And then the fact that we have 5 service centers, we have half of our staff are delivery. So many of us have never even met one another, maybe in a Zoom meeting, maybe not. So the idea that we could bring everyone together after 4 years, this is really kind of what we see as a priority for us. So we've, I know some of these details may be in your memo. We have identified Rockford as a location, specifically Northern Illinois University, their conference center. We try to equally inconvenience everyone when we choose a location, knowing that we're so spread out. So we were in East Peoria in 2019, wanted to pursue kind of a more northern location in the rail service area. I think most of you understand the rationale of in-service days, Institute Day. We've been talking about the various things that we call this day and what we want to call it. But for us, I think especially this year, it really is a focus on engagement and connection, because we just haven't been able to do that in person for so long. I will also call out for delivery for Mark and the delivery service managers and staff, how that time together, there's usually a time carved out for delivery staff to meet as a full team. That is kind of their one shot to do that. And it is really important. And I know as Monica and others have gone and talked and heard from delivery staff, they may be the most vocal about really wanting this day. So wanting to provide that sort of place for them to talk about delivery things and really get into it for what they are doing day to day. But of course, the day is structured as, you know, things that we do together as a full team, then that time to delivery and sort of non-delivery staff to do things. We're going to have some games, fun. I mean, again, we want it to be an enjoyable day for Scheduling wise, we know too, for delivery, it's important to think about their workflows. So middle of the week is what actually works best for delivery to kind of avoid those bookend Monday, Friday. So there's a buildup in terms of delivery. So we've always tried to do kind of Wednesday, Thursday. That tends to work best. The date and location have been shared just as a placeholder with our staff, so they're aware, but obviously that's pending board the action because it does result in a closed. So that is kind of what I have to share. I mean, we've got a committee of 10 who are working on planning the day. It's a much more, I think, condensed timeline this year. Normally, we would come to you probably by June or July with our approval date. So that is what I have to share. If there are any questions, happy to answer.
You guys just rent a school bus for like the location instead of having all of them drive to one?
That's fine. So like having it on a school bus or?
Yeah, just having like, it's how many people work in one location, like Peoria?
Well, I mean, I suppose it varies quite a bit where you have Rockford, obviously is very small, 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
East Peoria, with delivery and RSA staff, a larger number there. Coal Valley, much smaller as well. And then obviously office staff here. I've been trying to think if we've ever talked about it.
Carpooling is a huge issue because would you rather, who wants to come here if they're closer to the venue, 30 minutes closer to the venue where they live? Because people who work in Burr Ridge live all over. I mean, within an hour, but.
But I mean,
traffic.
regardless, we do have, of course, the fleet vehicles at each location that we can be, if we're going to help and kind of facilitate the carpooling so that we don't have 100 people all driving their own cars to whatever location's chosen. We can carpool as we're going to do like on Monday to get to Springfield, utilizing our fleet vehicles, which we already have. I'll have to look back and see if we ever thought about like the bus.
Just because I'm assuming the quantity of employees that we've hired throughout the years have already increased. But obviously just having everyone arrive in a location at different times. So people come in late.
Yeah, I mean,
The procrastinators and get there at one point.
no, it's a good point. Renee. Thank you for that.
We did research several years ago when we did one of
vaguely
our
remember,
one of
yeah.
our Star of Rock
Sure.
staff
Yep.
events. And the cost was a little bit prohibitive when we researched it for renting a school bus because we would have to have a school bus. Well, pretty much 3 school buses for people to meet up, get on the school bus and then drive to the event. So it was a little cost prohibitive then, but we haven't looked at it again since, which
Looking at just to make
It was curiosity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. So Joe's been working with the Staff Institute Committee to plan the day. As he said, it's been on a little bit of a compressed schedule. And so in future years, we would be looking to bring the closure date for a Staff Institute Day with you with all the holidays that we have in place. We just were a little bit tight this year. But one of the reasons why this is coming to you is because in order to hold an in-person Staff Institute Day, we do need to close our Rails locations, which also means that there will not be delivery on the day of the Staff Institute Day in order to have that. Previous, to this break that we have taken, this was an annual process and our libraries were familiar with that. But that is something that you should just keep into account, that's part of what we're talking about today for this approval. So any questions for myself or for Joe?
I'd be interested to see the agenda for the day, like afterward, and have a report on how it went and happened.
We can absolutely do that.
Picture with the check.
Wherever we go.
All right. Any further discussion? May I have a motion and a second to approve the closure of Rails on Wednesday, October 11th for the purpose of holding a Staff Institute Day. Thanks.
I second Rose.
Julie and Rosie, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Next up, we have a review of the board meeting schedule and locations for this year.
Thank you, Alex. So as we talked about at our meeting last month, as a board, in the previous year, the board had wanted to look at moving off-site for the meeting for a couple of locations, at least a couple of locations a year. And so we have identified that Coal Valley can be available for our September board meeting. I know that Emily has sent out some communications around that. Emily, anything you want to share about how those results have come in?
Yeah, we have 6 for sure going. I think a couple are going the day of, but a good, I know, Tom and Robin and Diane, who are usually our best attendees at traveling. Tom and Robin will be in East Peoria that day, and Diane will have to miss that meeting. But it'll still be a good turnout without our 3 regulars.
And just so folks know, especially if you're new to the board, you're not required to attend where the board meeting is happening, but it is a nice opportunity to get to see some of the other service areas and get to, be introduced to some of the staff that work out of those areas as well. So we encourage you to do it, but you're always welcome to attend here in Burr Ridge, even during those days, or to attend in other locations like
Apple
Peoria.
here in Burr Ridge.
Any questions, comments about this meeting for September? Then we are going to pursue the September meeting in Coal Valley, and then we will be looking at opportunities for another location, at least one other location in the spring. We've already started to investigate what some of those locations might be, and we will certainly communicate with you. But if you have an idea for a place that you'd especially like to be, we're certainly open to that as well. So feel free to mention that to Emily, and we'll take it under account for some of those discussions.
Peoria Public is has already said that they're open for March, April.
Awesome.
All right.
The facility is great. They're happy to have us, and their equipment is wonderful, so it's all good.
We appreciate your help with that, Rob.
We would like to have you come back again. So yeah, our library will have our construction and renovation finished.
Oh, well, that would be another fun option to pursue eventually too. Love to see that library.
All right. Thank you, Monica. Next up, we have Sharon with a update on the Rails 6-month investment portfolio review.
Thank you, Alex. I have repositioned the microphone. Hopefully it's a little bit better now. For those of you who were on the board this last fiscal year, this will probably be familiar to you, but for those of you that weren't, at the May 2023 board meeting, the Rails board approved an updated fiscal accountability policy. And that policy states that the board will review the investment portfolio twice a year to assess its effectiveness in meeting Rails's needs for safety, liquidity, rate of return, diversification, and general performance. The list of investments and deposits is included with this memo as of August 16th, since we had a few maturities at the end of July and early August. The majority of Rails's funds, as you will note, are held in liquid accounts with Hinsdale Bank and Trust, and these include the checking account that we have with them, as well as the money market account. The checking account is kept at a minimal balance with the bulk of the funds held in that money market account, and that account is currently earning 5.49%. The bulk of the funds have been kept liquid due to various reasons over the years, but most recently, this is due to the planned vehicle purchases that Mark spoke of, as well as several other facility maintenance items that are upcoming, as Mark also mentioned with that facilities assessment report that we just received. The remainder of the liquid portion of Rails's funds are held in money market accounts, both with Illinois Funds and PMA. And Rails's current investment portfolio consists of 1 treasury note and 13 CDs, as well as a small number of treasury bonds that were willed to the system, actually to Alliance Library System by a former Alliance Library System staff member who passed away several years ago. All 3 types of investments are fully backed or insured, as the case may be, by the US government or FDIC insurance. Rails has a total of, as of August 16th, $3,932,216 in investments, or this equates to 16.7% of Rails's total cash and investment balance that it has. Rails had one treasury note, as I mentioned, that matured at the end of July, and 4 CDs that matured early in August. To take advantage of this peak in interest rates, we reinvested those funds in 9 2-year CDs with an average interest rate of 4.93%. And with that, I am open to any questions that you may have about this.
I just want to thank Sharon for this new process. I think that this is a really good opportunity for us to look at some of these things and look at the analysis that goes into these investments. And because we'll be revisiting this twice a year, you'll have lots more opportunities to look at this again.
We are on to unfinished business, beginning with discussion of board committee assignments. Have the final assignments included in the packet. Monica, did you have anything to add about those?
There's not much to add. I just wanted to thank everybody for your willingness to serve on board committees. Everybody's on at least one. And so this is kind of your sort of, maybe not final, but mostly final list in terms of who you'll see on those committees and where they're at moving forward. So if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them, but I just wanted to thank you for participating.
Thank you all. All right, if there are no questions or comments, then next up we have our board development topic, which is the Service and Equities Research Project. Turn it over to Jeanette.
All right, hello everyone. If someone can just confirm you can see my slides.
We can.
Okay, perfect. That is great. So hello everyone. It's great to join you today. This time to give you a brief update on this Rails Service and Equities study. For those of you who weren't here for my previous introduction to the project, or just to refresh your memory, I want to briefly mention why we're conducting this study. During the most recent strategic planning process, perceptions of inequity were shared through input gathered during town halls, focus groups, and anonymous submission. And as a result, Rails incorporated our desire to understand those perceptions into the current strategic plan. So strategic goal number 4, objective 2, which you see here, voices our commitment to understanding these perceptions and addressing them in a way that allows us to better serve all of our members. The study began in November 2022 and was originally scheduled to conclude this past June. Due to some unforeseen challenges in member participation, last spring we revised that timeline to extend the deadline into August. Here you can see the 4 phases of the project and the corresponding activities from initial planning all the way to the final report. And the changes and adjustments to the initial plan are noted in red. We added a survey of all Rails staff to gather information about their education and employment histories as it relates to member statements and beliefs expressed throughout the survey or this study. One main challenge resulting in the adjusted deadline concerned our plan to conduct focus groups for each library segment. After carefully curating a list of potential participants based on a number of different factors, we extended invitations to selected staff members to participate and found that actually inequity among libraries manifested itself in their ability to participate. So while most responded that they were eager and willing, some noted that there was a lack of staff, time, or ability to actively participate in a 1-hour virtual meeting. So this required us to kind of reevaluate our plan and adjust our research method to allow members to the opportunity to participate. And ultimately, we invited them to complete a brief asynchronous questionnaire instead. So now we'll get to the part you're probably most likely interested in, which is what we've learned from this study. We don't have a lot of time to go into detail about all the areas of exploration today, so I just will share some key high-level observations with you about each of the areas you see here. Rails as an organization, including our member services and engagement, overall perceptions of inequity, and then some recommendations from members. So first, let's look at Rails as an organization, and I'll start by saying overall, our members have a very positive view of Rails. 3 key takeaways are listed here on the left. They overwhelmingly agree Rails is an organization created to serve all library types. They believe our staff and elected officials perform their jobs and duties with the desire to serve all members effectively, efficiently, and equitably. However, they acknowledge some concerns over the inherent bias of our board composition, which this extends beyond just governance and decision-making into things like meeting times and how information is distributed. As an organization, Rails should remain cognizant of how this impacts its members. And despite agreeing that Rails is meant to serve all 4 library segments, a majority of members feel Rails is primarily responsible for serving public libraries. These results shown here are from our member survey and support statements I heard during interviews as well. When asked if Rails understands and supports the work of all library types, academic, school, and special library workers were less likely to agree than public library staff. You can see the percentage of each segment in agreement here. Public libraries are also the library segment that said they're most likely to look to Rails for resources and support. Public library workers overwhelmingly feel we support their work, while those responses vary somewhat for the other 3 library segments. One reason often given for why we best understand public libraries is that Rails primarily employs staff with public library backgrounds. So to better understand the validity of that statement, I wanted to gather information about our staff and their work experience. And as you can see from this chart, about 1/3 of our staff has worked in a library. We have experience across every library type, and 16% of our staff members have worked in more than one kind of library. Public library experience is the most prevalent at 30%. And when I took a look at just the Burr Ridge staff specifically, because that's where the majority of our administrative function lies, that increases to about 42%. So members express that Rails is an organization that takes action both proactively and reactively when areas of need are identified. And this is evident in several of the projects initiated since the implementation of the strategic plan, including this one. Our members largely believe we're an organization that's a leader in the library community, and they look to us for advocacy, legislative, and other professional guidance. So next I'll move on to talk briefly about services. Through the interviews I conducted, the 5 Rails services shown here were repeatedly mentioned as being the most valuable to our members in their work. And in order to better understand their importance, we asked members to rank them in order. And this chart shows the number of first place votes for each of those 5 services. It's really no surprise that delivery is the most valued service. It's one of our most visible. It's also the service most likely to engage with staff members at all levels of librarianship. The rank also correlates somewhat with the level of overall knowledge our members said that they have about our services. More than 80% said that they have some knowledge of the delivery service, regardless of the library type they work in. And other services that members noted were important to them include the Rails job board, classified ads, cataloging support, grant assistance, and our email listservs. An important aspect of service equity stems from how we engage and communicate with our members. As an organization, we primarily do this in 2 ways that you see here, in person or digitally. In person, Rails engages with its member in a number of ways. I've just listed a couple common forms here. It's essentially any opportunity we have to talk with members face to face. We have a lot more opportunities to engage and communicate digitally, including but not limited to these 5. So they're fairly self-explanatory, but I want to mention them because they were the most called out by members as being important to them. We asked our members specifically about their interaction and use of the Rails e-news and website. And about 89% said that they subscribe to the e-news, 61% said that they read it every week. The likelihood of members engaging with the e-news increases with years of experience and in higher levels of higher positions within their libraries. And 88% of subscribers said that the information in the e-news is relevant to their work. 75% of members said that they visit our website at least monthly, and academic library staff visit the most frequently. We asked why they visit, whether it's news, events, services and programs, or for another reason, and they indicated primarily they're seeking information about services and programs. The other reasons most mentioned include the Rails job board and the member directory. Finally, this last item is something I want to emphasize. We sometimes get locked into the mindset that engagement is a task assigned to specific job functions. But I was reminded throughout this process that every time we pick up a phone, answer an email, chat via Zoom, those interactions all contribute to member engagement. They shape the way our members view and respond to our organization, and we should be mindful of how each of us has the potential to help shape those relationships. Finally, I'll talk about service inequity itself. Prior to this study, we were aware of perceived inequities, but we needed a broader understanding of how this awareness translates to our membership as a whole. As you can see here, just a small portion of members responding to our member survey said that they knew of service inequities, but that being said, they also overwhelmingly said that even one instance of inequity requires attention. So a lack of awareness doesn't necessarily mean a lack or lead to a lack of action on our part. School and public library workers made up more than 3/4 of the members reporting inequities, and 82% of those responses were from people who are working in positions of librarian or higher. And also staff with 6 to 15 years of experience are the most aware of service inequities. This slide shows the list of the 6 forms of inequity expressed throughout the study. There are 2 main areas. The first is related to library type, as noted during the strategic planning process, and the second is related to geographic location. Secondary forms of inequity shown include those within library segments themselves as related to financial resources, agency size, or agency type. And with regard to geographic location, those include both the location within the Rails service area as well as the locale type, whether it's urban or rural. So you'll see here, these are the results for the reports of service inequity. Inequities among the 4 library types were the most reported by members. That's 61% of all of the responses that reported inequities said that they were aware of that type. This is the form of inequity most reported by staff from academic, school, and special libraries. The next 2 most reported forms of inequity are between large and small libraries and urban and rural, which are the top 2 forms reported by workers from public libraries. After that, it moves into primarily disparities caused by regional geography and financial resources. So how do our members suggest we address these inequities? They provided many valuable recommendations through interviews, or the member survey and focus group questionnaire, which target areas across Rails. The first recommendation was something expressed by every library segment in some way. Our members perceive a geographic barrier to accessing Rails, and they are interested in the ability to regularly connect with staff and programs in person. I received a lot of positive feedback about how much members appreciated the opportunity to meet Monica in person during the meet and greets, for example. Our members feel Rails should take a more active role in connecting with libraries experiencing barriers to engagement. Some suggestions include routine outreach, where we periodically contact members just to touch base, but also include ideas like Rails staff submitting news spotlights for libraries so that they can have greater opportunity to share their stories. Some of this work is something we're already doing and through our increased use of social media. This suggestion acknowledges the unique circumstances of school and small rural libraries and speaks to a need for Rails staff to have improved their knowledge about the work and challenges specific to them. Suggestions ranged from hiring consultants, as shown here, to simple changes like an awareness of the language and terminology we use when referring to each library type or speaking from positions of privilege. The fourth suggestion addresses the idea that a one-size-fits-all approach isn't always best. Members want to connect with the information and resources they receive in a way that's relevant and applicable to the work that they're doing. For example, several mentioned how documentation may need to be expanded to explicitly give use cases or instructions for their particular library type. Increasing transparency around brokered services and expanding these for all library types. This is just one example of feedback received showing how members would like to better understand our decision-making processes in a variety of areas. They expressed some confusion over how we determine which programs and deals to pursue, who determines who has access to each deal, and how they can go about submitting requests for new deals. And finally, this last item addresses the belief that our events and services aren't inherently available to all members due to schedules and platform of delivery. So members are asking us to consider alternate scheduled times and formats to allow for greater participation. But that's all I have for you today, but I look forward to being able to share my complete report with you very soon. Since the project has wrapped up, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Renee here, first of all, thank you so much for providing all that information. I just want to make sure that everyone understands, and especially the new board members, I think Rails has done tremendous jobs as to educating the different types of libraries out there. I know recently in the Rails bin, I did receive the pamphlets that I ordered in regards to what Rails provides for public libraries, which is where I work. And then especially with Joseph's hirings, or Joe's hiring, his specialty is also working with schools. And I think his knowledge hopefully will be able to assist with these, because obviously we're having issues with the school sector essentially, and how to provide them with more assistance. But I think with your hiring, most definitely will hopefully achieve it. And I know before they even considered you, or before you applied, I know I mentioned it to Monica that hopefully we could hire someone who has that background, because it is something that we're missing. And I know with the new opportunity for the new marketing, what's, is that the director of marketing?
Marketing. And
Hopefully, everyone can work together in making sure that the word comes out. But I know participating with several of you at ALA, it was really nice to see a lot of different libraries coming to the Rails table. And I know, of course, with Janet here, we've had several discussions and laughter in regards to some things that in the public world and how people approach different personalities. But overall, just again, we've been doing a lot of changes within 1 year. And I'm just excited to see what else can we do to improve everything.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying all of that, Renee. I'm sorry. Well, I do want to kind of build on what he is saying, is that members do acknowledge that we are already making progress toward a lot of the things that they're asking for. You know, it's just that it's hard for me to always get that, bring that across, I guess, in every single aspect. So it makes it sound like I don't want anyone to feel like these are complaints. They're generally constructive ideas and beliefs that they're bringing to us for consideration.
And if I could, I just wanted to add, you know, a lot of the original idea for the Service and Equities Project came out of the kind of focus groups that we were having during the strategic planning process. And we really wanted to investigate how we could continue to improve relationships, partnerships, and make sure that Rails is meeting users at the places that they need to. And we can always improve. So a lot of the suggestions that are coming from members and the kinds of analysis that Jeanette is doing is going to allow us to really prioritize how we're going to make some of our efforts going forward.
Yeah, and as I've spoken with Monica about previously, Rails is already taking steps to meet some of these goals and ideals. So it's kind of like I'm working on analyzing while we're already moving forward, which is great. And that's what they like to see.
Jeanette, thank you so much. Your presentations are always, they're easy to take in, and you have a beautiful ability to kind of summarize a lot of strands of data. And I think I'll just end by saying that as the board member representing school libraries, I appreciate so much that at the same time that we're acknowledging that there may be improvements we can make, our school librarians are also noticing how much we're making. So that both of those go together is like a beautiful thing. And I want to just encourage all of us to continue to acknowledge that there's such a beautiful diversity in our membership. And the more that we can keep our eyes open to how it is and how it could be, the better we are to get to where we want to go.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you for your kind words, Monica. I appreciate that. It has been nice to work on this project alongside the school project as well, because it does kind of move hand in hand. And I have gotten a lot of really great feedback from school librarians at, thanking Rails for its efforts in making sure that their voices are heard and supporting their profession through that project as well.
Jean Carroll here. I'm a new board member, and something that Monica just said, and I think I missed your introduction. So can you tell me, is this part of a regular thing that you do? Like, can you just tell me a little bit about your position, and like, is this some kind of report that you do on an annual basis?
So this is a special project that was launched in conjunction with the strategic plan to fulfill that specific goal that I showed on the screen, goal 4, objective 2, to address the perceptions of service inequity. So my understanding is it's probably a one-time project for Rails. However, I do believe through some conversations that I've had with Monica and other staff members at Rails, and through the report that I'm preparing right now, there will be some future exploration in conjunction with this into some other areas of the work that we're doing to make sure that we're able to stay on top of this in a more ongoing fashion, if that makes sense.
It does, but she just said, she made a comment about like your reports are always. So just wondering.
I appreciate that. Yeah, so I work as a data research specialist here at Rails. I'm one of the 2 members of our data team, along with Grant Halter, who's the data analysis manager. I believe you met in July. And, I My primary responsibility so far at Rails has been the school library data project. So I began that project in January of 2021 or 2022. Sorry, my years are all, it's like, what is time right now? But so I have brought to the board several presentations about that project. So I think that's what she's referring to.
And Gene Grant, who manages the data program, is going to be presenting for the board next month. So he'll be able to share more about all the different projects that they do and work on too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jeanette.
Right. Thank you.
We are on to Rails board member reports. This is an opportunity for board members to share news about their areas or libraries. Does anyone have anything you'd like to share this month?
Downers Grove Library actually passed our strategic plan for 2023 to 2028. And that did the final plan that they passed incorporates the equity strategic plan that we created last year and was unanimously passed by our board in April of last year. So it was a big task for our staff and our equity advisory team to bring together two different strategic plans that were created in two separate processes that didn't necessarily line up, but they did an amazing job. And we are very, very happy with the final.
Anyone else? All right. And we're on to our recap and agenda building for the next meeting. Our next meeting is going to be Friday, September 22nd, and the agenda will include Grant Halter with the Rails data report, and Greg McCormick will give an update, give an overview of the Illinois State Library, and the meeting is going to be held in Coal Valley. All right, next up, we have our closed session. The board will move into closed session to discuss matters regarding employment as per 5 Illinois Compiled Statutes, Chapter 120, Paragraph 2, Section C1, which states, exceptions, a public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel to determine its validity. May I have a motion and a second to move into closed session?
Second, Alice.
Alice, thank you. Emily, would you please call roll?
Rosie Camargo? Yes. Jean Carroll?
Yes.
Alice Friesen?
Yes.
Fran Gregory?
Yes.
Robin Hohenfeld?
Yes.
Hollister? Yes. Jennifer Hovenick?
Yes.
Renee Leva? Yes. Julie Melevec? Yes. Thomas Stagg?
Yes.
Yes. Karen Boyd? Yes. Catherine Yanikowski?
Yes.
Pelicott?
Yes.
And Alex Mancina?
Yes. We are back in open session at 3:15 p.m. And we're on to actions follow up from closed session. Do I have a motion related to the raise the pay rate for Executive Director Monica Harris to be applied retroactively to July 1st, 2023? We have a motion.
Have a question.
Yes.
Can we refer to it as the amount agreed to in the executive session?
I think we need to.
No, we need it.
For the record.
The amount, okay. I would like to make the motion to increase Monica Harris's pay rate to $182,875. Retroactive to July 1.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
Second.
Renee, thank you. Emily, would you please call roll?
Carroll?
Yes.
Alice Friesen?
Yes.
Fran Gregory?
Yes.
Robin Hohenfeld?
Yes.
Hollister? Yes. Jennifer Hovenick?
Yes.
Leva?
Yes.
Julie Melevec? Yes. Thomas Stagg?
Yes.
Yes. Karen Boyd?
Yes.
Catherine Yanikowski?
Yes.
Pelicott?
Yes.
Rosie Camargo? Alex Mancina?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you all. And that concludes our business for today. Did anyone have any other comments or discussion before we adjourn the meeting? If not, Thank you all for your time. We'll see you in Coal Valley in September. And this meeting is adjourned at 3:17 p.m.